So it's the whole team. It's like the movie. It's like airport operations. I did air shows full time for about 15 years, but I had the opportunity to start teaching at Embry Riddle. So now I fly for Alaska Airlines and teach for Embry Riddle. I flew my first air show when I was 20 years old. It's not work. It's like air shows feeds my soul now.
So I started by filming behind the scenes at the air shows because everybody sees us flip-flopping. By the way, hello here. We are at the International Council of Airshows in Las Vegas, and we are here with Melissa Dawn. I'm so happy to see you. We're literally neighbors. We're seeing each other once a year.
Once a year, which is, there's no excuse, because aside from having to show our passports to cross our backyards, we should be hanging out more often.
Totally.
And I've got Camp Pass. I could fly my airplane over and actually hang out with you too.
Same here.
Okay. So it's now recorded.
Yeah.
No excuses.
It's on record. We are doing this.
Yes.
And I started by filming at the air shows. Everybody sees us in front of the crowd.
Yeah.
But not many people realize how many people are making this show happen. Nobody knows who is the air boss. Everybody hears the announcers and never see them. They don't know how many volunteers are fueling planes, putting smoke oil.
So it's the whole team. It's like the movie. It's like airport operations. You get on your plane and you fly somewhere and don't realize it's like the tip of the pyramid or the iceberg, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But also not many people know that air show performers actually not always doing it full time.
Yes.
So for me personally, and I have been talking about it, I do air shows, but I also operate a flight school and we're teaching people to fly. Melissa has a very interesting
I think I'm a workaholic. I did air shows full time for about 15 years, and whenever we decided to have kids, I realized maybe doing air shows full time was not the most sustainable thing and stable thing, even though I was loving it. But I had the opportunity to start teaching at Embry Riddle. So I taught on campus, and then after 1 year, they moved me to teaching online. So now I teach full-time online for them, which opened another door to apply for an airline job. And so now I fly for Alaska Airlines and teach for Embry Riddle, and then that allows me to fly the shows now where I don't have to do it full time. And the kids. And that's my primary job, is definitely the kids. It's a balancing act. It's definitely a balancing act, but somehow it all seems to support, they all kind of support each other. I mean, the air shows I've done since it'll be 20 years in May. I flew my first air show when I was 20 years old. So
wow.
I know. And
you were competing as well.
And in which?
And you were competing at the...
Oh, I was competing. Yeah. So I competed for the U.S. team. I made the U.S. team the unlimited team when I was 22. Mm-hmm. So I started really young at it and just had great coaches, incredible opportunities, and it's been an incredible career. But I think now with the balance of it all, I know how to air show. I love air showing. For me, it's fun. It's not stressful. It's like what feeds my soul.
It's not work.
It's not work. It's like air shows feeds my soul now, and I get to come see my friends. I get to, when we get together on the weekends and take my kids to the shows. So air shows went from being my full-time job to now being that thing that I still get to do because I love to do it. It's like my passion project. And going to the work at the airline now is my primary job, which supports the teaching at Embry Riddle, because when we're teaching our aviation students, as you know, it's so important that we keep that material relevant and up to date. So I find that by being actively in industry, that helps me to feed the courses and feed that back into my students so that they're getting up to date, relevant information. And I think it keeps the curriculum more fun and yeah, keeps them engaged.
What do you teach? Which subjects?
So mostly, I just did a redesign of our aerodynamics course, which I'm not an engineer, but this is aerodynamics for not even all pilots. It's just people that are taking our various bachelor's degrees that are aviation focused. So aerodynamics, aviation safety is my big passion. I love teaching that course. I just did an airport operations course, a certificate course in Brazil. So I did an in-person class. Yeah, 7 weeks online, 1 week in person with the local airlines down there. So that was a new one for me. I got back from Sao Paulo a few weeks ago. What else? I have to think about that. What else am I teaching? Those are the main ones. Aviation law. which we have a bunch of lawyers that teach it, but it's really a history class. So it all ties into aviation safety, aerodynamics for aviation safety, law to understand the background and the history that leads to where we are today and our foundation of safety. And it's just, it all works together.
One of the shows we have flown together was in Hillsboro, Oregon, and
Yes.
it was all female.
The all women's show.
And it was so special, and I had many women, girls coming to me, it's like, oh, I cannot get my license right now because I have kids.
Yeah.
Or I do this first and then. So how do you juggle all of that? And do you feel that the family is your motivation or an added challenge? Or probably both?
I would say it's a little bit of both, but when people, I'm like, if you want a family, don't wait, have a family. I feel like, right, we're moms, we know. It's like, if you want to have kids, you're going to make, everything else is going to work out. You're going to find the way. Yes, it's going to change everything, as it does, and it's hard work, but if it's what you want, then there's no reason that you can't have the family and have the career or fly for fun. It's going to change what it looks like. But I have seen a lot of people who put it off, and then they never have a family. And
I remember you here with a newborn a couple of years
exactly,
ago at the conference.
Exactly. We brought Isla when she was 4 weeks old, I think. I almost had to bring them both. They're 5 and 7 now, and I thought, they would have had fun. It would have been a little tough to do business, but that's it though. You just integrate them, you bring them. They come to a couple shows a year, like they'll come to Hillsboro and they'll come to Abbotsford, and I'm in Bellingham, Washington, so those are kind of my backyard shows. And yeah, I think we just keep on living life and be ready to shift and change when you have to.
Absolutely. My son was born before I got into aviation, so he was about 3 years old, and he grew into it.
Awesome.
In aviation. He was, once we were driving, it was like snow in the mountains, and he's like, Mom, I want to go where snow is. Like, well, it's too early, there are no roads up to the top. I was like,
yes.
If we can't drive, why don't we fly there?
Yes.
For him, that was like absolutely normal mode of transportation. Yes. And aviation kids is kind of an almost different breed of kids.
Oh, completely. My husband's from Talkeetna, Alaska. So in Alaska, it's like, the roads only go so far. So you need an airplane to fly. I think you got a lot of the same in Canada going on. So my kids, their idea, people are like, do they like flying? Like, well, they like where airplanes take them. They like flying to the gravel bar to go camping with their friends. They like flying to the mountains so they can go play in the snow. They have no, like I feel like they do feel it a little bit, but they're getting that exposure, and it's helping them to push their comfort levels. And they don't know how special it is because it's so normal.
It's their life.
It's their life.
Normal everyday life.
Yes.
Do you think they will be pilots?
Oh, I think for sure. I'm like, they have to at least get their private pilot's license. They can't have moms that can teach them to fly and not at least do the initial. But my son really likes helicopters.
Okay.
My daughter, I don't know, she might be my future doctor, but I hope that they'll both want to at least learn how to fly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From my experience, don't be at the airport the day of their first solo. I got
really?
so much gray hair.
Oh my goodness, you never told me about this.
Oh, so my son was training at our flight school.
Yes.
And I specifically wanted him to do his PPL on a tail dragger.
Yes.
So he did sit out. I mean, he was.
Which is so awesome. Oh my gosh.
To me, it's the most natural thing. That's how you fly planes.
Yeah.
And he could loop my decathlon even before he could reach the pedals to land it.
Yes.
We would be coming back from the air shows, and he's in the back seat. He would loop the plane when he was 4 or 5.
Amazing.
Or we would be flying behind a camera plane.
Yep.
And the operator is like, okay, go upside down when you take some shots. And my son is sitting in the back seat. It's like, Vanya, we're going upside down. It's like, okay. And he's sitting with his iPad. It's like, okay, we're going upside down.
I just got to hold on to my iPad now.
Yeah, that's all. So
it's amazing.
When he started, so in Canada, you can solo when you are 14.
Okay.
He was doing all the solo cross countries, all the flights, by himself in the airplane before he was allowed to drive legally.
Isn't that incredible? And then you get to the airport and you can't take the car to go grab lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the day of his first solo, because again, we identified there was a conflict, not even a conflict of interest, conflict of nerves. It's really hard to teach your family. So I had another instructor in our flight school that was teaching my son, and I knew he was somewhere coming up to his first solo, but he wasn't there yet. And then I get the message, I'm sitting in my office, I was like, I've sent him solo. So I'm running to the ramp. I don't want to stress my son out, so I'm standing behind a sign for a taxiway or something. He's taxiing on the runway. Later he tells me, it's like, oh, this is a weird bird on the sign. It's like, that's not a bird, that's mom.
That's mom. It's mom watching me from behind the sign.
And like I tried not to be visible to him. That failed. So he goes for his first solo, and I actually have a picture from the other side.
Awesome.
Of the,
with you in it too.
With him going for the first solo, with me behind the sign, with an arrow mom watching.
Oh, they had to feel so proud.
But it is terrifying.
Yeah.
You watch your baby fly. It's a very emotional moment. It's very special. But then you watch your baby land.
Yeah.
And it's very nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
To some extent, I wish I'm glad I was there.
Yes.
But it was a very emotional moment. At some point, I wished I just knew after the fact.
Yeah, just know that he's down and safe. Now we know what we put our parents through. Just.
Yeah. I can now feel it. Because when I started flying, my mom was terrified.
Yes.
And she's not an aviator. She can travel as a passenger, but that's about it. So she was terrified. I did not appreciate that enough, and I only went through it when I saw my son.
Wow. That's when your mom looks at you and says, someday you'll understand. You're there.
Yeah.
You've done it. Oh, that's incredible. And I think so many times I think one of the special things with the air shows is we have this opportunity to expose people to aviation that didn't grow up with it or don't have it in their family, because so many of us are so fortunate or blessed to have been exposed. Like my grandparents flew, so I was exposed to aviation through them. My parents don't fly, but they were very supportive of my flying, and I feel like so many people I fly or work with or meet, they had aviation in their family somehow. There was somebody that gave them that exposure. But now, after all these years of us doing shows, you go back, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, someone will come up to you who saw you fly as a kid, and now they're getting their license, and it's like they were inspired, and now we're getting to see.
Because I did not have anyone in aviation in my family, so Grandleys, Bud and Ross were that inspiration when I came for my first air show, and they were there in the sky. And then they were so real, so approachable. You could actually talk to them as normal people. And to me, that was the whole world that I didn't even know about.
No. It's amazing. My grandpa took me to Oshkosh, so that was my first big air show. I had done basic aerobatics as a kid with my grandma and with him, and he took me when I was a senior, and right after I got my private pilot's license, my first big cross country was to Oshkosh, and my mind was so blown. And I think back to, it was like meeting Julie Clark and Patty Wagstaff, and these people who just were your heroes. And then, like you said, they're so approachable, and then years later you turn around, and now these people, your heroes, have become your friends and the people that you get to go and experience life in aviation with, and that's such a cool part of this industry.
Know you.
I
feel very privileged, to be able to talk to people like Mike and Patty Wagstaff. Like all the people that we have seen I have seen from the distance for some time.
Yep.
And then,
well, it's like you say, it's such a lifelong industry and career, and it's so small. It's like everyone's just so closely connected, and everyone wants to support each other. Everyone wants to see the industry growing. We want to see young people getting involved. Otherwise, otherwise we lose it. It's like that's such an important part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And of course we're here at ICAST, and this is the whole thing. It's the networking, it's the reunion, it's the family. It's awesome.
What's your secret to getting through the challenging times of juggling the airline schedule and air shows?
Sometimes I drop some of the balls. It's right. So just like picking which ones. I hold my kids up number one. That's the main thing. It's like just if I have to, if you have to,
you take them with you.
I'll take them with me. I've got a good support system around me with our parents that they'll come in and help us out. Transparents have been amazing, but I find that I really am a planner. Like I've got to plan way out. And of course with the airline, you don't know your schedule until 2 weeks out. So,
really?
So that's kind of stressful. And I find that a lot of it is bidding around my husband's schedule because he works week on, week off. He flies for NetJets. So week on, week off. So I have to bid around him. And
so
then
it's a family of 2 airline pilots.
It's a family of 2 airline pilots with the 2 kids. So mostly I do a lot of juggling. I have to lean on family for help sometimes, and I take the kids with me a lot, or I give trips away, or you just find ways to be able to do your job, but still be present and being present and being mom is by far my top priority. It's like, what's your job? Like, I'm a mom. That is my job. All the other stuff helps to support that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, so if I have to drop balls, I drop the other ones. I don't drop the kids, don't worry.
Melissa, you're such an inspiration.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I hope that sharing your experience, sharing what we do here, can also tell to more women, especially girls, that yes, we can have it all. Yeah. It's not always easy, but it is possible, and it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. It's not gonna, like you said, it's not easy, but it's worth it. And don't let wanting both limit you. And be ready to accept the shifts and changes when you have to.
There are ways.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. I love what you said about planning. It takes a lot of planning
much
juggling, and sometimes you make it some balls make it wrong.
Yeah.
But I would still not trade it for the
I wouldn't either. No, neither would I. And no. So we should do this more, this hanging out thing. Mm-hmm. Not just in Vegas and at air shows, but definitely whenever we're back home and
kids, dogs.
Oh yeah.
Come over for Christmas.
We'll come over. We'll come hang out. We got to do it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Oh. And me and my kids are going to subscribe.